Welcome everyone to a very special video of mine. Today we are going to address the entire Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 situation. Why am I doing this? Well, I guess you can thank the Capcom defenders for actually giving me all these arguments, all these people giving me different reasons to defend Capcom. So, since I can't really bother to do a lazy copy pasta on every one of them, I think I'm going to make a full video so everyone can hear what I have to say. I'm not gonna say that I talk for everyone. I don't need to say it, because more than one people will agree with me. In the same way, others will disagree with me. So, let's begin, okay? Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I have to say, this is one of the most controversial games that has ever hit the shelf in this generation. Why? Because some of the new generation of gamers seem to be really upset against the veterans. These underage people, while these Capcom hardcore followers play this and love it, they thought everything is cool. Everything in the world of Marvel vs. Capcom is great. We got pretty graphics, a very chaotic experience. We got the new characters. We finally got Chris and Wesker in the game. But also, they thought, they crashed with a brick wall. With this wall of bricks. What is this wall of bricks, you ask? Every single veteran player, every veteran gamer who saw through the pretty graphics, who saw through the pretty nice presentation, and actually decided to do what people haven't had the guts to do for years. These gamers complained against Capcom for giving us a really shallow, a really limited video game experience, because Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is lacking content. They dared to speak against Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and actually call out Capcom for it. What was the reaction of all of those hardcore Capcom fans? They got scandalized. They went, "Oh my god, what are you doing? Shut up! You're going to upset Capcom!" And instead of showing us that they are true fans, instead of showing they are these level-headed fans, what do? They prove every single one of us right, and they pretty much get to personal attacks with anyone who dares to complain about Marvel vs. Capcom, or Capcom for that matter. Who started to actually raise their voice against Capcom? Well, right now I can think of two names that not only have been sounding aloud in the ranks of the Capcom fanbase, but also have become sort of the most hated right now. These two names are Angry Joe and the BLACKbustercritic. Now, why are these guys hated so much right now? Well, because these guys are popular internet users, both give their opinions on games, and they don't care if they are too vocal about it. If they feel something is wrong with the game, they're going to say it out loud. And since they didn't give Marvel vs. Capcom 3 the love they feel it deserves, they were automatically labeled as haters. I'm going to elaborate on this a little more later on in the video, but I have to say, some of the insults I heard towards these guys were childish, bad, but what is worse is that now anyone who dares to talk against Capcom, they are saying, "Oh, You obviously never played the game, or you are obviously a fan of Angry Joe, or you must be one of the subscribers of BLACKbustercritic because you don't have an opinion of your own. It's obvious you never played the game, because if you played the game, you wouldn't hate it so much. Those are not good reasons at all. So, as these two users made their rants, as they gave us the points as to why the games were not good, and as to why we all should stop supporting Capcom, a lot of people started arguing in their respective comment boxes. Now, what does this have to do with this video? Well, in this video, I'm going to address right now some of the people I myself argued with. Because, while these people think that we're just fanboys of these two and that we can't have an opinion of our own because we're too busy parroting these two, they don't realize that the reason the majority of us agree with them is because we played the game, we made our research ourselves, and we saw with our own eyes what Capcom is doing, and why we agree with them in calling out Capcom for it. So, one of these guys I had a talk with sent me this very, very long private message on YouTube telling me why he thinks BLACKbustercritic is wrong for complaining about Capcom. So, what I'm gonna do right now before addressing the other points is answer to that private message. And I'm going to do it in this video because I'm sure there's plenty of other Capcom fanboys, white knights, and apologists trying to use these very same reasons. Okay, so here I go. Now, addressing the arguments, one of the guys sent me a private message linking me to this Big Al guy, telling me that he had made a rant on the Marvel vs. Capcom people disliking the game, and I thought at first, well, you're going to show me someone who has good points, but no. Big Al just happens to be a hypocrite. Why do I call him a hypocrite? Because he first says he knows Capcom is making bad business decisions, he knows they are screwing fans over, and even though he says fans have all the right to complain, he outright insults Angry Joe and BLACKbustercritic, calls them haters. He says they don't like Capcom, they are just whiny banshees, they're screaming like banshees, and then tries to say it's not fair for the other people with complaints to be labeled with them. That makes no sense. Okay? That makes no sense. You first say fans have all the right to complain, but at the same time, you're trying to shut up these two guys because they are acting like they don't hate Capcom? Are you serious? I was actually planning to do a commentary on Big Al, but for some reason I wasn't able to download the video at all, and I didn't really want to make a live commentary because that's just not my style. I don't like doing it like that. So, the hypocrisy this guy showed in the video was just baffling. On the very few minutes of the video, I saw two things. Number one, he doesn't watch the videos. All he hears is the people complaining about Angry Joe and BLACKbustercritic. He says that they are claiming they are the boys of gaming. They never said it before. I mean, if they even bother to link to a proof to tell us, they actually said it. No. All Angry Joe and BLACKbuster are doing is tell us what they think. They're raising a point. At one point, even BLACKbustercritic said, "I'm not playing the superhero." They know they are not the boys of gaming, but they are at least speaking up. He says it's not fair for people with criticisms to Marvel vs. Capcom be labeled with Angry Joe and BLACKbustercritic, but at the same time, he's saying that Blackbuster and Angry Joe should shut up. That tells me he didn't even see the complaints. Which also brings me to the other point. He didn't look beyond what these guys do. BLACKbustercritic channel says specifically that his channel is for internet rage. He is about getting angry. Same with Angry Joe, his own name says it. It's angry. These two express their opinion in an angry manner. Now, you people want me to take guys like Big Al serious when they themselves cannot even take a guy acting all aggressive about what they're talking about? Really? You're... how to put it? You don't like the guy whining. According to you, that's whining. But you are whining yourself about them. You say you have no problems with people having legitimate complaints, and yet you want these two guys with legitimate complaints to shut up? Are you serious? Those are traits of a fanboy. A fanboy tries to shut people up. He says, oh no, these are crazy. I know there are legitimate complaints, but these two should shut up because, you know, they're acting so aggressive. Reminds me of Guptil 89. That he complains because they have these, you know, aberrant behavior, or I don't remember the word. I don't pay too much attention to Guptil's video, but anyway, just that hypocrisy baffles me. You accept opinions, but at the same time you want these guys to shut up? You putting words in their mouth. They think they are the voice of gaming. Then, if they're not the boys, then who is? We are not. I've seen people making videos complaining because we shouldn't complain. Shut up. They do this all the time. And I'm going to address this right now. Because, like I said, all this hypocrisy is unacceptable. You cannot tell me that you're a Capcom fan and that you know they are doing wrong, while at the same time you're defending them. I cannot take you serious when your complaints, you know, when in the middle of your defense, you're not only trying to shut up the people who are talking against Capcom, but you're also going with personal attacks. That kills credibility for your argument. And even if you're trying to say, oh, they're saying it too, they're attacking people, that's irrelevant. You say you try to act like you're better than they are, but then you try to act like them, you try to be, you know, give the jab back, hit them back, because they hurt your ego. You don't like being labeled as fanboys, so you have to attack back. That means you're indeed fanboy. Here's a little tip, guys. If you are not something, say, for example, you're not a Capcom fanboy, then you shouldn't be taking offense on people like BLACKbustercritic and Angry Joe calling others fanboys for defending the game. You are not fanboy, you shouldn't be taking offense in the first place. But by making angry messages, by uploading angry videos towards these guys, you're showing me and the rest of the users that you are indeed fanboys. Just think about it, okay? Now, let's get into the people who not only defend Capcom, but they are also trying to give all the critics the reasons as to why Capcom will pull such a poor business decision, okay? This is a long private message someone sent to me, and I'm going to talk about it right now. The reason I'm going to address it is because I'm pretty sure the majority of you Capcom defenders are going to use it, or you actually use it on a regular basis, okay? So, here we go. Okay, so now addressing the message, I'm going to go part by part because the message was too long. So let's start. The user tells me, "Do you want to know why I say he's wrong?" He's talking about BLACKbustercritic. Because he doesn't know half of what he's talking about. Fine, that's your opinion. Okay, so the only characters that was left out of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was in fact Frank West and Dr. Octopus. Both were hacking, but neither of them have any info whatsoever. Jill and Shuma had, but they were incomplete. Frank and Otto didn't have anything other than the pastes with their names. Virgil, Nemesis, Phoenix, Wright, Firebrand, Strider, here you go, Rider, and Fist, whatever, are totally new. It is true there wasn't any actual info on Frank West and Dr. Octopus. However, you seem to miss a little bit of the point. You seem to forget that by finding these characters, it proves to us that they rushed the game. I mean, the main complaint already is that the circumstances behind the development of the game were not good. They had 10 years to develop this, and they only did it in one. You cannot really get good games from 1 year development. Not on the level that Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was promising and advertising on. Now, regarding the next bunch of characters being totally new, you seem to be focused more on quality over quantity. I know much of your argument can be about people like Rocket Raccoon or Hawkeye being pushed. You will say that they also left out, Mega Man X, Captain Commando because they were not popular enough. Here's one of the contradictions one of your fellow defenders do. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, their argument is that it had a lot of nobodies. They said that Marvel vs. Capcom 3 had a smaller roster because they wanted to put the people that were better known. But at the same time, you're giving me here not only names that many people haven't heard before, Hawkeye, Rocket Raccoon, but they are also giving us characters that no one even asked for, unless you were fans of these comics like MODOK and She-Hulk. Yes, I know there are fans of She-Hulk, but you gotta admit she wasn't popular enough. And then you people turn around and told us that Marvel vs. Capcom 3 wasn't for casuals and wasn't for people, that wanted popular characters. Instead, you're telling me it was for people who wanted the tournament mode, who wanted to play tournaments. So, not only you're contradicting yourselves, but you're also not making any sense. If these characters were added, if these were put separately in DLC, people would have chose which one they liked better. Or maybe they could have chosen better characters for their selection, there wouldn't really be so much complaints. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are still problems with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. But still, let's move on to the next part of your message, because I need to elaborate on that. Now, in the next part of your message, you tell me you want to know why Capcom didn't add or didn't have a spectator mode at first? Because the netcode of the game was bad. It is bad. No way in hell would that mode work with such a bad code. One of the main draws in UMvC3 is a revamped code. It says so in the box of the game. Capcom is pushing for it. Now, with this one, you're also proving the people right. The people who are against Capcom. Or what they are doing. Excuse me. The netcode, by telling me that the netcode in the previous one was bad, you're already proving everyone right that their criticisms for the original Marvel vs. Capcom 3 were correct. Why was the netcode bad? Because they rushed it. They did the same thing Sega did with Sonic 06. Instead of giving it time and developing properly, they just put everything together at the last minute, and they expected people to accept it. Many of you Capcom defenders actually told us that we should be glad we had it. You even defended the bad netcode. You defended Marvel vs. Capcom 3, saying there was nothing wrong with it, telling us that it was fine. And now you're turning around and telling me why it was bad. But that's not all. Let's see now the part that kind of frustrates me when I'm going to elaborate. So, let's see. You tell me. You want to know why we get these new Marvel characters? Because Marvel is pushing their agenda. Again, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I'm going to explain that later, because right now you're telling me Capcom is pushing their agenda, but then you turn around and say that we, the gamers, are the one asking them. So, basically you're telling me Hawkeye is there because of the movie Avengers, which from what I heard, he gets nothing but a limited appearance. Ghost Rider is getting a new movie, Doctor Strange is getting a movie, Iron Fist 2, Nova and Rocket Raccoon, and started in the new Avengers cartoon. Again, with this you're proving everyone right. They are not doing this for the fans. They are not doing this to, make up for Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and how bad it was. They are actually doing this for their own benefit. We are not in the picture at all. The only reason we are in the picture in reality is to give them the money. They expect us to take what they are giving us and not complain about it. This is what BLACKbustercritic meant when he said that they should cater to us, not the other way around. As far as I remember, there were news telling us that Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was supposed to be fan-made. And then you're telling me here that they are the ones giving the last word. They are the ones picking the characters and pushing them for their own advertisement purposes. That's no longer improving the product for your fans or for your customers. You're now just making shameless plug, shameless advertisement, and sacrificing all the potential of the game. So just think about this, okay? Now let's move on to the next part. Now this is the part where this user contradicts himself. A pattern that, for what I see, becomes very common with the Capcom fans that are trying to defend it from the critics. You're telling me that the reasons for the roster being like that is because they chose it. But at the same time, you'd want to say that the fans were involved. We were not involved at all. Again, you're telling me that the game was just their little political agenda to get their product placement and, make more money. You gave me the info. You're telling me at the end of this little paragraph that you would be with me and the other critics if you didn't knew all this info. That actually should be the other way around. Because you know already that Capcom wasn't interested in our interests to begin with. Capcom were not caring about the fanbase at all. They were just trying to push their own products. They didn't care if the fanbase approved or not. They didn't care if the sales will be up or if they will get more happy customers with it. No, all they want to do is push the new things they're going to be selling. Money, 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 money. You actually should be agreeing with all of us because, seriously, I don't really need to elaborate. You stated it yourself. And yet you defend it. That's the problem many of us have with the Capcom defenders. For things like this, contradictions like this. Oh, but it's not done. Let's continue, please. Okay, I have to admit, I facepalmed at this paragraph, at this part of the message. We promptly asked for a Super Street Fighter 4 type of update as soon as UMvC3 was released. Even Top, Saryukin, and Capcom, the users asked for that and made polls of the characters we want, and what we did. But this wasn't done by 30 people, this was done by thousands. This is the part where I'm telling you that you're contradicting yourself. First, you're telling me that Capcom had the saying in this, that they picked the characters, that they had the last word, and it had nothing to do with users. And yet here you are telling that we actually asked for these guys. You're telling me we actually asked for Rocket Raccoon, we asked for Hawkeye, we asked for Phoenix Wright. Well, Phoenix Wright makes sense. He's pretty popular and he's pretty cool. But again, this is contradictory. First, you're saying that these guys, we asked for it, and then you're telling me a few minutes ago you told me that we didn't have a say and it was all Capcom's doing. You have to make up your mind. Now, you're saying that it couldn't be DLC because there's too much new info. You know, there's this thing called bundling. You could have sold this new information on the new Marvel vs. Capcom, on the current Marvel vs. Capcom 3 as free patching. You could patch it. Not all the people is going to want these characters or the content. That's why you release these things in little packages with reasonable prices and making the customers pay for what they want. Not the other way around with them making us pay for things that the majority of us don't even want or know. Just take a look at NetherRealm Studios. They release their characters one at a time, all the DLC characters one at a time. They say, you didn't like this one, don't buy it, get to the next one. You like this one, well, buy it. You seem to have this little flawed thought that we are supposed to buy every single DLC. Some people, could have downloaded... the fans of Hawkeye could have downloaded Hawkeye. The fans of Rocket Raccoon could have downloaded it separately. And in that way, everyone will be happy. Capcom will be making their money, and they will have less complaints because we are not having these things pushed down our throats. You're telling me that Marvel vs. Capcom 3 isn't shady business? Really? The original Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was a demo. Then the next Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is just the patched version, the version that should have been released to begin with. They're going to make people pay even more, adding it to all the money they already spent on the original Marvel vs. Capcom 3, not counting the limited edition. You're telling me that's something we asked for? This is where people like you are labeled as fanboys. You say you asked for a poor game like this? Really? This also tells me you're either underage or new to gaming, because that's not how business works. You're telling me this is okay, but then if this game is so poor, how come NetherRealm Studios is giving us a full package of a fighting game with everything balanced, everything accessible, even the business model is good and convenient for the players? And let me remind you, Capcom is a bigger company. If they wanted, they could have crushed Mortal Kombat single-handedly. Instead, they decided to go for the cheap way to make money and just make all their fanboys stand up for the name value. And normal fans alike. I mean, I don't label, but come on. When you react like this to the criticism, when you act like any criticism Marvel vs. Capcom gets is offensive, then you're being a fanboy. Because you know that something is wrong, but you will not admit it, or you will not want to do something about it. Just read this, people. This is the point where you know you're talking with a fanboy. Guilty people always try to bring up others' faults in order to make the other people's faults look less bad. You want to complain about Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition? You want to put many plus of the fighting games department, those ones you can't? Really? This is where fanboyism is called out. This is where you are labeled fanboys. because you protect one side of that company with all your heart. You're protecting the fighting game side because you don't want it to be affected by the words of us. You don't want people to complain about it because it's your comfort zone. You cannot seriously tell me that the fighting side of the games are actually pure, immaculate, and should be left alone. You cannot. You cannot tell me that you're not a fanboy when you're right here desperately trying to take the attention away from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. You know why the Super Street Fighter 4 editions pissed people off? You know why re-releases as constant as Street Fighter 4 upset people? Because you're basically buying the same game over and over and over again. You're having copies of the same game on your shelf. You're wasting money. You're wasting space on your disc, or what I say, space on your shelf. You're telling them that it's okay to re-release things. This is why we don't like games that are made in less than a year. Because they leave out things, and in order to make up for them, they make you pay more and more and more for things that should have been in the game in their first release in the first place. We know about all these issues, but we made the mistake of not talking about them. But wait, I'm going to elaborate on it a little bit ahead. Just let me finish your message, and I'm going to finish this long video. By the end of the message, the guy tells me that why am I complaining? And I guess this question can be asked to all of us who are acting against Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So you know what, I might as well do it right now. Sorry if the video is running too long. Please bear with it. Trust me, it's worth it. Okay, here we go. Okay, why I complain? Because what Capcom did here was the same thing they did with Street Fighter 2 and 3. Many of the defenders' argument is that why are we complaining now if they did this in the past, and why should we be used to it? Well, here's the thing. You think it's wrong for us to finally complain now, but there's actually nothing wrong in complaining right now. Even though they've been doing this for years, nothing stops us from drawing the line here and now. We let them get away with this kind of business for a long time. We're in 2011. At this age, your wallet talks. Your wallet does the talking for you. If you buy the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 with so very little content and so very little things that you have nothing but the gameplay to be happy with, then you're looking for something shallow. You know, it's a fact that true gamers never ask for new games every 6 months. True gamers know that for a good game to be developed, years need to pass. Of course, there are exceptions like Duke Nukem Forever where it ultimately flopped, but that was because it wasn't developed in hell. But with things like this, games need to deliver. Okay? They have all these technological improvements, they have all the tools to give us the ultimate experience, and Capcom decides not to give it. That's why the Sonic fan base got brought onto the table. That's why BLACKbustercritic says that the Capcom fanboys are just as bad as the Sonic fans. Because all you guys cared was about the name value. Name value and the very limitations of the gameplay. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is a button masher at best. I have won many times just by mashing buttons like an idiot. I have seen people spam attacks like the ones with Dormammu or Sentinel and just claim that this game is more balanced. I can tell you that even with the balancing, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is going to keep having spam attacks. You don't get that with Mortal Kombat. With Mortal Kombat, they actually gave us the full package. It is fair that we compare these two because NetherRealm Studios did everything in their power to keep fans happy. Keep them happy and give them their money worth. DLC is supposed to be made for expansion packs to, expand the lifespan of the game and to ultimately make the experience better. What Capcom did here, and plenty of times before, was release the same game but with pieces cut out. Pieces that should have been there from the beginning. We wouldn't have minded DLC or a re-release. You can re-release the game as long as you can make it downloadable. There is no excuse for what Capcom did. No earthquake, no natural disasters. There were other gaming companies in Japan at the time of the earthquake, and yet they are still going through with their plans. Some games got delayed, but they are not going to rush it. The gameplay of the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is good, but that is not enough when the content is so little. We complain because we're not getting our money worth from Capcom. I rented Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and I was considering to buy it. But after I saw what I saw there, and trust me, I saw it before watching the rants of Angry Joe and BLACKbustercritic, I realized I wasn't getting a strong game. I was getting a demo at best. And with this release coming out less than a year later, even though they claimed they weren't going to do this, they are proving everyone right that they are just in for the money. Yes, it is true. Every gaming company is in for the money. The only difference is that some companies want to give a good service to keep their customers happy. It's like when you go to a restaurant. You want to get the best service, you want to give your customers the best experience so they not only get satisfied and happy, but they also come back for more. That's why people complain. That's why people like myself complain. We want Capcom to work hard. They can give the best games ever. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 could have been the biggest and best game of this decade. But it's not. Because fanboys accepted the limited content. Because people was okay with this shady business. Because they were okay with being given very little content and then claim that it is the best. It is not the best. It's just a little bit of what it could have been. Okay? And to close this video, I have to tell you guys, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was advertised as the ultimate crossover, as the biggest fighter ever. Every time you went to the select character screen, the narrator would tell you, be ready for the fight of your life with all of your favorite heroes here. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was awesome. It had plenty of content. Yes, there were clones, but you know what? It was okay because they delivered. 56 characters, more than enough to set everyone's preferences and to keep everyone happy. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, like I said, was advertised as the biggest crossover ever. The ultimate crossover. I cannot really see it as the ultimate crossover when the roster got cut so much. That's false advertisement. You're promising something epic and big, but when you get to see it, it's just another fighter with limited content. Think about it, guys. It is true there's people who get vocal about it and get violent about it, but that's how they do it. That's what they are about. Do not be hypocrite, guys. We are, like I said, in 2011. We have the power of the internet. We have YouTube, we have blogs, we have the entire internet to make our voice be heard. It isn't pointless to complain. We complain because we're not happy with the product. It's their responsibility to give us the best product they can offer. It is their job to satisfy us. They have to earn their money, not the other way around. As for Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I'm going to either pirate it or get it used. If Capcom wants my money, or anyone else's money for that matter, they will have to truly earn it. Not with this Christian-like apology, but giving us something legit. Think about it, guys. I will see you later. And I hope you like what I said. If you still disagree with me, just keep in mind what's happening. Look around you. Instead of putting your goggles of Capcom, your Capcom goggles, instead of drinking the Kool-Aid, look around and think for yourself. Look what you're missing out. Look what you could have. There's nothing wrong in asking for more. Okay? Sorry for the long video. This is the longest video I've made. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.